Hello everyone, this is Star Zenith 33 Laura Francesca at tonight's episode here, episode 39, where I am going to be talking about the Scorpio Moon, which just jumped in. And I was like, this is a perfect moment to just jump in there because there is a lot of squares going on. There's a lot of friction going on. So I just want to warn people and just, let you guys know about the frequencies and what is going on, okay, globally, because this is happening around the world, not just in the United States. And so let's talk about that in the podcast. Join me there. So thank you for listening to the podcast here. The moon just jumped into Scorpio. Okay, so we might be feeling a little bit more passionate, a little bit more intense. There might be a little bit of obsession because, it's natural when the moon is in Scorpio, it can become very obsessive, okay, and very intense. It's in its fall position. Okay, so when it's in its fall position, then that means that the moon, which rules comfort and nurturing and emotional stability, when it's in Scorpio, it's actually the opposite. Okay, it is known for intensity, extremes, and stepping out of your comfort zone. Okay, the energy can be very contrary. Okay, it can be very transformative. It can also be very emotional and harder to achieve, okay, because of so much emotion. So, while it's considered a challenging placement, it is it's known for being detriment or in its fall position, okay, and that's the reason. Because it can be the good thing is that it's very deep and is very intuitive, okay? So it can navigate through crisis. This is why a lot of people that work in hospitals and clinics and so forth, where there's a lot of crisis going on, policemen as well, and police women, and people in therapy also, even sexual therapy, okay? There's a lot of, if you have some strong Scorpio, you can fall in that category where they would need you in these type of places like the ERs, You can handle these type of crises. So that's a good thing, when it comes to Scorpio. That's the strength of the Scorpio. But in the moon is our emotions. So our emotions can be a little bit too intense, okay? So if it's too intense, just back off a little. Do some meditation, drink some water, do things. There's many things that you can do. Okay, you can download some apps. I have recommended before Endel app, which is pretty much just the frequency of the 528 hertz, and it's the frequency of love. So what happens? Let me take this out of my mouth here. So what happens is when it's at 528 hertz, you can also listen on YouTube. And it's just, it's not about words or anything like that. It's just frequency. And you just listen to the frequency and it helps with your nervous system as well. If you're too intense or something's going on in your life, okay? So that's what's going on with the moon in Scorpio. I hope I sound good. I'm using my other microphone, which I've always used, and I kind of miss it. It's a big pink microphone, those that you put like in the podcast rooms. And, but the reason I'm using it is because right now everybody's asleep, so I can use it. And the other one that I did purchase that I might sound a little bit more squeaky on the other microphone, but it does cancel the outside, like whether it's dogs barking or the firemen going through, because I do live in a very busy intersection of where we live. There's always a lot of commotion. So, I'm a professional, so I do. And I also get distracted, okay, very distracted when I hear on the outside noise. And I'm like, where was I? So I don't like feeling that way. But right now it's very peaceful, very quiet. And especially that's, Moon in Scorpio as well. It can become very secretive or just very quiet and also very jealous. Okay. So we got to watch out for that tendency of being jealous and so forth, because that's not good. And it's not good also to, fluffer other people's feathers, with jealousy and so forth. Because, then you have to fight that energy, and then it's just draining energy. And so it's not worth it. Okay. I've been there, done that. So what is going on with the moon in Scorpio? It's at 3 degrees of communication, so it's a great time to be communicating. It is in the eighth house of transformation. Okay, so you might have some information that can pertain to the collective, and anything that you are talking about can be powerful, can be potent. And the motto here for the moon in Scorpio is we have, okay, in the eighth house. And that includes anything that has to do with financial, moral, spiritual, or physical support that you receive from other people. It encompasses legacies and trusts, wills, taxes, insurance matters, as well as any inheritance of money, goods, or characteristics. Okay. The eighth house also governs the dead. Okay. It also governs executors, undertakers, like funerals and all of that. Very like, dead stuff. So not only does Scorpio rule the death, but it's also in the eighth house of death. Okay. So, but I don't want people to focus like, oh, somebody's going to die. No. What I'm talking about, there's endings that are going on. Okay. There, and, we just have to make smart choices. This is why I do the astro weather, because there's so much going on, and right now we don't know what's real, what's not real. There's a lot of reports of like there was this fire over here, there was this smoke over here, explosions, galore. It's becoming something. So, it's like we're adapting to everything that's going on, like, oh, another fire here, like we're getting used to all these fires, and we should not. But in reality, because of the astrology, and I see all these squares going on, it does not surprise me. It does not surprise me one bit. But it doesn't mean that we have to live in fear. It doesn't mean that, we have to go hide out, What it means is whatever is your peace, right? If hiding out is your thing, then go ahead. But just make sure that you're not forgotten, right? Especially if you're running a business, if nobody knows about your business or anything, then how are they going to buy from you? How are they? But, and it doesn't mean to also just put yourself out there too much. You do have to set standards, right? And standards when you can put yourself out there and when you should take a break. And that is life, right? We're not always work, 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 work. We have to relax and we have to enjoy life, and whatever is happening, do be aware, right? But don't fall into, because a lot of it is propaganda, okay? And we don't know who's being paid for what. That we got some really great actors out there, and a lot of them are being paid by political agenda, just to swing the votes on that side or anything like that. So we just have to, this is why I talk about the astro weather, right? Because with the astro weather, what it does, if there's an article, we could debunk it with astrology. Okay. We could say, yeah, that is really what's going on, or no, that, that would never be happening. And so, and I'm pretty good at debunking because I'm an astrologer, but I also know psychology. And not only that, I'm very intuitive. Okay. I'm very psychic. And I normally don't really talk about my psychicness, but I really am. Okay. When you have a lot of Pisces in your chart, like I do, I have a stellium, which is my sun, Mercury, and Venus, all in Pisces. I'm very psychic, very intuitive. I get a lot of downloads. I'm very tapped into other side. I hear from God and my angels. and they come through my dreams as well. And right now, the energies that we are going through right now is very prophetic. Okay, and especially because the North Node is in Pisces. Okay, and so it's interesting because the Moon right now in the eighth house in Scorpio. So let me click out of there. It is making a trine to the North Node in Pisces. Okay, and one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast, this episode, is because I wanted to talk about, and I haven't really been talking much about it, is the North Node conjunct this star, this prophetic star. Okay. Some people call it a dangerous star. Other people might call it a prophetic star. Okay. It only becomes dangerous, okay, when you are not aligned with in this in this particular sign that it's in Pisces. So it would be with Jesus, with God, your higher spiritual, who you go to, your higher power, right? And it is about being a good citizen, okay, and helping humanity and helping people. It is not about being in corruption, okay? It is not about, doing evil things, okay? That's when the star becomes dangerous, okay? So you got to look at the frequency, okay? Everything is frequency, right? You enter a room, it's frequency. You eat food, it's frequency. Everything has frequency, okay? The clothes you wear has frequency. Where you are, where I am podcasting, has frequency. This is why I always, put some like aroma and spray, and sometimes I'll do some incense of roses, and so it could smell really good, get me in the whole vibe thing. And it's all frequency, right? And so a lot of people also, when you see people and you think they're always lucky, is that because they're doing things to be in the higher frequency, okay? Whether it's listening to, megahertz in YouTube, or having their own apps of just tranquility, water, and being out in nature and so forth. That can calm their nervous system. And you always think, oh, they're so lucky, they always have everything. No, it's just that they put work. Okay, they put work. It takes work. Okay, it's called work. And it could be anything. It could be just being in peace, doing some exercise, going for a power walk, drinking a lot of water. There's even people that, I don't think I've ever done that, but they say it works. And drinking a water bottle, and then you speak affirmations to the water, right? And those are the people that really have that faith in the water, right? And they speak into it, and they say, I'm going to have such a great day. I love myself, or money's coming my way, or anything like that. And they speak it to the water, right? And I've heard that works. And then they drink the water. So it's kind of like prayer, right? They pray over the water, and then they drink the water. So they're drinking that frequency of that prayer that they're putting in the water, and they're manifesting things, and that's what they do. A lot of people do that, okay? And so there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, if prayer works, and before we eat, right, we give grace. Most of us do, right? I know I do. And we thank the food for the food we're about to eat, right? And that is prayer. That is prayer over the food. So what people do is that they pray over the water before they're going to drink it. And they'll say, today's a great day, everything's going to go my way, there's not going to be no traffic, or anything, something so small. It could be so insignificant, and you just speak to the water and it happens, right? Or you're just aligned with the water. So if we pray over our food, why can't we not do it over the water, right? And that's very North Node Pisces, okay? So the North Node in Pisces is fate, destiny. It's where it's hungry, okay? It's where I wouldn't say hungry, I would say thirsty, okay? It's where you get a lot of thirst, right? And It's very foreign because we're not used to being the North Node in Pisces. Some people might find it hard to believe, you know. And I think if you're very earthy, it's kind of harder to manifest because you're so earthy, right? And people that are very watery, very fluid, very just go with the flow, very mutable, find it much more easier, you know, to have faith, to believe that it's going to happen, even if people say, "Oh, that's too woo-woo," you know, that's too much imagination, you know, too many dreams, right? And that's the thing they don't understand about Pisces, okay? That we're dreamers and we get messages through our dreams, through downloads, intuition, feelings, our gut feeling, you know. And you know, we're discerning as well, right? So the North Node in Pisces is for the whole collective, okay? But some people do find it a little bit more harder to manifest, you know, to believe, because we're being tested, okay? We're being tested by God with the North Node in Pisces. And I knew it all along. Since it entered, I've been tracking it, okay? And I said, oh man, when that star Formahalt, you know, that is the prophetic star. And some people think it's a dangerous star. It's only dangerous if you are doing evil things. It becomes dangerous to you, right? But if you're doing the right thing and you're trying to live your best life for you and your families, and you're working and you're doing all of this, right? And if you don't have work, well, then, you know, you're doing work can be anything. It could be working in the garden. It can be, you know, helping your family. It can be helping the kids. It can be anything. That's all called work. Okay. And so if you're doing all of that, you know, this star, okay, can become very blessed. It's a very blessed time, very prophetic. But it might not seem blessed, okay, only because it's squaring Uranus, okay? So when it squares another planet, it's not so easy anymore because now there's a challenge, right? If there was not a challenge, if there was not a square with Uranus, then it will be really good. It's really good, right? But see, it was getting along when Uranus was in Taurus because they both get along. Pisces and Taurus, they get along. It creates an opportunity. But now that Uranus left Taurus forever, and now it's in Gemini. Well, now Gemini in Uranus is forming a square with the North Node in Pisces. Okay? So the challenge between both of them is, first of all, Uranus in Gemini is very rebellious. Okay? It's very rebellious and it doesn't care. It's going to pull the rug off your feet. It's just going to snatch it off and it doesn't care if you fall. And it's very, very rebellious, very blunt. And it just doesn't care, you know. It wants change. You know, it's tired of waiting. It's tired. It's like, I want change now, you know. But it can do it in a very rebellious way. So we just have to watch that, you know, because it's so impatient and it wants change now. And it doesn't want to wait anymore, you know. And, you know, with Pisces, it can be a little bit more slower. You know, Pisces might just be relaxing too much, you know. And Uranus wants to innovate and wants to bring change, right? So the challenge between both is if Uranus does create some kind of tower moment, like what we've seen in Garden Grove, California. For those that are listening around the world, there's a location here in California called Garden Grove. And there was a chemical spill that happened through a big old a tank, I guess a tanker, and that belonged to a chemical plant. Okay, so they're responsible there, but you know sometimes, well, they're responsible because I'm not trying to get into the whole political or the whole you know, corporate of what they should have done or not, you know. But there are rules, regulations that they need to follow, just like the refineries, right? And I don't think they were following it, you know. And also, I'm not totally blaming them because there are frequencies that are outside our control that can happen, okay? And it could have striked the tanker because we have such high solar flares that we've never had before. Okay, you need to understand that these frequencies that we are having with these planets, we've never had them before. Okay, this is all brand new. We're talking about the early 1900s. We're talking about the 1800s, even the 1700s, late 1700s. Okay, we were not alive during that time. So we're not used to these energies. We don't know what was going on. All we can do is just read the newspaper clippings and what was going on in the 1800s, what was going on in early 1900s, right? And that's all we can do. We can read books, we can read articles, but we didn't experience it, right? So our mind and our body doesn't know how to function during these frequencies that are happening dating back to Civil War days. What were they doing during the Civil War? How were they protecting themselves? And we're not going exactly back to the 1800s, not exactly, because when you think about this era, we have AI, okay? We have, there's a lot of tools that we have that they did not have, right? And that can move things much more faster and protection and all of that, right? But it's similar times, and we don't know how to act, you know, during these frequencies that are going on, you know. And so, for example, in that tank that the solar flares could have hit one of that tankers, and maybe they didn't even see it coming, you know. I don't think there was an alarm or anything that was signaling to the community. And it could have hit, you know, it could have been one of the solar flares that could have hit, or it could have been Formaha, okay? The star that has, it's gaseous, okay? It has nuclear. That star has nuclear and is gaseous, okay? And it could turn into fire. And luckily there was no fire, right? But it did, I don't know if it did a hole and then the leakage came out, you know, and it just started spewing up in the air, right? And it was all toxic spill, right? So what these solar flares can do, they can do that, okay? They can, you know, spike a hole somewhere and it could just start, you know, this is why there needs to be a lot of protection around where there's tankers like that, okay? So that's out of our control, okay? If it's too hot when it comes to these stars, this is why I talk about stars and I talk about asteroids, because when they hit, they hit. And so right now, the North Node in Pisces, that has to do with the water, with the ocean, and this is happening in locations where there's a lot of water, okay? In Garden Grove, it's a dry land, but it's in Orange County, okay? So Orange County, there's a lot of ocean, lots of beaches. They have Huntington Beach down there. They have Newport Beach down there. They have Laguna Beach. There's a lot of beaches in the Orange County area and all over in the United States. But Orange County is known for being the beach, you know, and so forth. There's several beaches down there. And then going towards San Diego, there's like more beaches down there as well. So, you know, Pisces rules the water. Okay. So where we have the North Node right now, it's about wrapping up. It's at 4 degrees. Okay. It wraps up when it gets to 0. And the North Node right now is conjuncting Formaha, this star of prophecy, something prophetic around the water, something prophetic that is happening, and it's not going to wrap up until July. Okay. So when it leaves July, then the North Node is going to go into Aquarius. And Aquarius is going to be totally different. It's no longer going to affect water, the beach, the lakes, but it is going, it will Well, we'll see how it goes, but Aquarius also rules water. Okay, it's a water bearer, so there could be some continuation with the water, but not as much. Okay, because Aquarius is going to be more about technology, so we just got to be more cautious about technology and how it influences and so forth. And more talk on aliens and spaceships and all of that. But it's going to be more faster as well. Okay. And with Pisces, it's been about relaxation, it's been about traveling like near the water, right? It's been about just taking a break but not just that. It's also been testing us in our belief system and whether we believe, okay, no matter what. Okay, so because it's making a square to Uranus and Gemini, which is a challenge, it's saying, will you have faith in spite of whatever happens with Uranus and Gemini? Like some change that happens and you didn't see it coming, but this change happened, right? And sometimes we can't prevent that. Sometimes things happen, right? So what the North Node is telling us is, will you continue to believe? Will you continue to have faith in spite of what happened? And the answer is yes, right? No matter what happens, understand that it was a change that God brought upon us. And the result is, like, for instance, I'm going to go back to Garden Grove again, the same topic there that I've been talking for the past 2 days, I think. In their situation, yes, it was toxic. Yes, there was a lot of spewing up in the air. And hopefully they didn't get infected in their lungs or anything like that. Let's hope that, that they're okay and so forth. But it was very toxic, right? And the result of this, that, they're blaming, the chemical plant, right? Because there was no alert. There was just no, they didn't notify the community or nothing. They just say, you just got to leave, right? Well, there's going to be lawsuits. I can imagine there's going to be lawsuits. So the result of this is that they're going to get compensated. So what was seen as something dangerous, well, the result is, sometimes they say that what was made for evil, what came out, there was some good that came out of it, right? They made it for evil, God made it for good, right? And so maybe they needed money. Well, now they're going to get compensated. I don't know how much. I don't know, but it's some sort of compensation because they had to move urgently. They had just had to go. Them and their kids. The kids couldn't even go to school. They shut down the schools and everything. So they're going to get some sort of compensation with this, right? And so that would be, of having faith, in spite of what happened, right? And your faith is that God, is with you and God is going to see you through this, And for the whole collective that are not going through that situation, thank God, for us is, if something does happen, understand that you have to keep having faith, right? And that is a lesson for all of us, to continue to have faith, especially at 4 degrees. Okay, 4 degrees is of stability. It is of reconstruction. Okay, if something falls, you have to construct it again. You have to start again. And it's about putting work into the work that you're doing, right? And it has very stability, very structured. It also rules law and order. Okay, it rules protection. It rules the cops. It rules all of that. It is the 4 degree also of Cancer that has to do with families. Okay, and where the formal is exactly at 4. Let me hang on one second. So Formahol is also at 4 degrees and is coming together with the North Node, which is something that's faded, okay? And there's something prophetic that is happening with that, okay? So let me just, let me click on there. Okay. So the North Node, you know what, let me refresh it. That way, because, okay, here we go. The North Node, okay, it's in the 12th house of completion. Okay, there's something that has completed, and something you need to confront if you haven't confronted a situation that's hidden. That is where we have the North Node. Okay, it could also be like hospital stays. It could be like mental institutions. It rules mental illness. It rules also traveling. Okay, and that is where it's the suffering house, the sorrow, where you might feel sorrow, you might feel limited. And it's a good time to pray to God. It's a good time to meditate. It's a good time to be in solace. Okay. It's a good time to listen to some really good music, without words. It's just, just a frequency. Um, And it's also a time of inspiration. Anything that inspires you, right? Become creative in some kind of way. But maybe you just want to be alone. Maybe you just want to be alone and just want to just relax, And that is what the North Node is right now. It's in the 12th house with Formaha. You might be getting more downloads because Formaha rules with prophecy. And maybe tonight, okay, it's 1:28 of the morning. Maybe some people are asleep right now and they're having dreams with Formal, some prophetic dreams. I wish I was asleep right now, but I should be getting off here because I'm already at half an hour here. And so it's making a trine right now with the moon in Scorpio. Deep, deep dreams, okay? Prophetic dreams that are happening right now. Especially because the moon is in the 8th house of deep, deep, deep dreams, okay? Things that are hidden. And yeah, that's what's happening right now. So with the moon trining, but it's very important. I did want to talk about and reiterate about the North Node in Pisces with Formahal. Because, like I said, it doesn't wrap up till July. And it's exactly at 4 right now, 4 degrees, okay, of stability. But the problem here is that it does square Uranus, okay? And I also want to say that there's a yod that is happening right now, okay? Between the North Node and it's between the North Node and Formahal and the moon in Scorpio. And I believe, let me get these. Yes, and Uranus and Gemini. Okay. So where it matters a lot, it's called the apex. Okay. And it's where we pay the most importance, where is the moon in Scorpio. Okay. That's where the apex is with the yod. Okay. It's called the finger of God. And with the moon in Scorpio at 3 degrees of communication, that is where I would say the friction is, the problem resides in, okay? It's not between Uranus and the North Node. Is it Uranus and the North Node? And, no, you know what? No, I'm sorry. It's Uranus and Neptune in Aries, okay? And then that's in conjuncting there up there with the moon in Scorpio. So that creates a yod, okay? And so, forget about Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini, right? They're getting along very well. it's not really so important when it comes to the yod, the finger of God. What's important, where the finger of God is being pointed, is in the moon in Scorpio. Okay. And so the moon in Scorpio, that's where we have to pay attention. Okay. It is at 3 degrees of communication, and that is where we have to do the work. Okay. And when it happens here with the moon in Scorpio, it's about resolving in the eighth house something that's hidden. Okay. Something that's deep, that's secrecy. Maybe it doesn't want to be seen, it doesn't want to be talked about, but it is at 3 degrees of communication, so it does have to be talked about, especially when it's on a yod, a finger of God, and God is pointing at the moon in Scorpio. Okay, so there's something that's going to be discovered. Something, I don't know. I'm hearing the word escalate. Something about escalating. Something's going to escalate. Oh wow, wow. Yeah, I do believe it because these these squares that we're having. There's a lot of squares that we're having. Not only that, the moon also in Scorpio is squaring Pluto right now. Okay, so Pluto is in Aquarius, and I'm not a fearmonger astrologer. Okay, I'm not trying to put fear out there. I put awareness. Okay, this is just to be aware. This is why I'm doing it at this hour. And I'm going to continue doing it, because I know the importance of it. But this moon is making a square to Pluto right now at 5 degrees of children, at 5 degrees of entertainment, at 5 degrees of fun. But it's not fun when it's in a square with the moon in Scorpio. Okay, so where Pluto is right now in Aquarius, it's in the 12th house of completion as well. And I do have to say Pluto's in retrograde right now. Okay, so we're talking about things of the past. There's a lot of things of the past that we're remembering, that we're trying to fix. And it's in a challenge with the moon in Scorpio. It might be in a challenge because something's being revealed. Okay, and something about the past. Okay, when it comes to entertainment, Hollywood, anything like that. Okay, especially because Pluto's in the 12th house. Okay, of what's hidden, or where it's being completed. Okay, because it rules completion. But because it's in retrograde, I don't feel that it has completed. Okay, because when it's in retrograde, that means that we have to fix things of the past. It doesn't mean that it's not ready for a wrap up yet until it moves forward. Right now is the time to fix things, go over documents, go over paperwork. Where did you mess up? Where can you fix it? Where can you go back to the drawing table? Because the moon in Scorpio is revealing things, okay? And you don't want to be exposed, right? And so that could be an example there. There's something that's being worked behind the scenes with the 12th house, with Pluto. That's bringing a challenge to Scorpio with the moon. The moon also rules females, okay? It rules femininity. It rules our emotions. It also rules what we consume, what we eat, okay? What we listen to, all of that. And, but mostly how we feel. And like I said, when it's in a Scorpio, it might be pretty intense. Okay, we might be feeling pretty intense, maybe pretty passionate, or pretty jealous. So it could be something like that. So don't get your emotions all whirled up. Like I had mentioned, I have a grounding mat, right? And the grounding mat that I have, it really balances me. It balances me, and I didn't believe in them until I bought one. And I gotta say, I totally recommend it. I'm not being sponsored by no grounding mat, okay? I'm just telling the real results of, because I've used it. And I use it and I connect it to my outlet, and I just use it for like 15 minutes. That's it. Like 15, 20 minutes on there. And then it grounds me all through the day. That's it. Some people use it for a whole hour. Like, I'm always doing things, so I don't got time to put my feet in a grounding mat for a whole hour, But you could use it for about half an hour, right? You could use it like right now, I'm in my desk and I could put the mat underneath and I could just put my feet on top of it while I'm doing the podcast. And then once I'm done with the podcast, I get my feet off the mat and that's it. I did my grounding, and it grounds your whole body. Okay. So if you're feeling too intense or too emotional or you got ADHD, right? Or you're just, too antsy or you have anxiety, right? Or if you have inflammation as well, it works for inflammation as well. You just put your feet in there for about half an hour and that's it. It's like if you walked out in nature and you walked out in the grass or in the beach area, in the sand or anything like that. And I am so grateful for that. That's one of the best tools I have right now when it comes to grounding. So if I'm feeling too erratic or something like that, because of the energies, like I said, these energies, we're not used to these, okay? Our body cannot function with these energies, and it is what it is. It's the truth, okay? I don't care if somebody says, well, my body does. I'm like, no, it does not. You will notice that it's going to get you off that equilibrium and it's going to unbalance you, these planets, okay? And you need something like a grounding mat. You need something to ground yourself with or take a shower. But I would highly recommend a grounding mat because it does ground your body. It makes you balance and it grounds it like as if you were walking in the grass out in nature, barefoot, right? When I use a grounding mat, I don't use my shoes, I don't use socks, it's barefoot. And it just helps all my body, my brain, everywhere. So you need these with these planetary energies that are just too high. There's a plus to that. Okay, the plus is that you can manifest really fast. Okay, you don't even really need to do meditation. I mean, you could do a little bit of meditation, but because the planets are so strong, the solar flares are so strong, you can manifest really, really fast like that. Okay. Your intentions, that's why you have to pay attention to your thoughts and your intentions because we're manifesting it, right? So if you're paying attention and thoughts or you're listening to things that you should not, well, guess what? You're manifesting that and it's happening real, real fast. Okay. But it's a good thing if you're thinking of good thoughts, right? Of what you want to manifest, a lifestyle, your happiness, your joy, your health, your friendships, your connections, your community, all of that, right? It's going to happen really fast too. You're going to have support. You're going to, maybe be in love, maybe have friends coming in, having a new lifestyle, everything, right? Having good health because health is wealth, right? And so a lot of these positive things can happen as well and really, really fast, okay? Like, because I mentioned, we have not experienced these type of energies. It's very foreign for all of us. This is why if our body cannot take it, then you got to ground yourself, right? And that's why I do that, because sometimes the energies can be a little bit too much, especially for me right now. Okay. That's why you got to know your chart and so forth, And by the way, if you do want to get a reading, I do have to say my website, www.starzenith33.com. You can head out there. And if you do want to get a reading from me, you can schedule an appointment there. But see, I know my chart, right? And I'm having powerful, powerful energies, okay? I have a lot of air. So this Uranus in Gemini, okay, right now, because I have early degrees, it's making trines to all my air, okay? And it is very much the energy, the frequency, I'm feeling it very strong. This is why I have to wear shungai, okay? For you guys that don't know, but shungai is this kind of, it's not metal, but it's in the color black, and it's a chain that I wear, and it's called shungai, okay? And you can actually put those pebbles as well. I think you can order it on Amazon and eBay, anywhere online. Just Google shungai, which is Shungite, shungite. And you could put them even in a glass of water, and you could drink that water. Don't drink the pebbles. Take the pebbles out, but let it soak the pebbles in there at least for an hour, 1 hour or 2 hours, and then take the pebbles out, and then drink the water. And that's how you can drink shungite. And so what it does, it eliminates the EMF, okay, of too much radiation that is out in the air, especially when you live in a 5G area like I do. Especially in these business places, entertainment places, they have strong 5G, okay, because they need strong internet access on there. And here in the town, in the port town where there's a lot of tourism and everything, the 5G is pretty strong. So I wear jewelry that lowers that 5G. Okay, so I can be out there and not a problem. I'm wearing shungite, and it's a big black metal. Well, it's not like a metal, but it kind of looks like a metal. And I wear it as a chain, and when I'm walking around, even some guy here in my community, I do have to say, it was a black man too. And the farmer's market was going on, and he looked at me and he said, you're, because I guess he sells at the farmer's market. He has a stand there. He sells, I don't know if it's fruit uh, or maybe incense or something like that, but he seems spiritual. And he pointed at me from kind of from far, and he said, you're wearing shungai. Like he noticed it right away. And I said, yeah, I am. And he said, yeah, good thing. And in other words, kind of saying like smart girl, you know what I mean? To be wearing shungai, because you don't really see a lot of people wearing it, unless you're really spiritual. But shungai, it takes away the EMF. So I have to wear it because I'm having a Jupiter conjunct Pluto. And for those that don't know astrology and don't know what a Jupiter conjunct Pluto is, it is a very potent transit that is happening. Because you need to understand, you do have to be aligned with it, with this transit. For instance, like the one I have. Like I have to be aligned with it. But even if I'm not aligned with it, it's still going to happen. Okay, so it's good to be aligned with it because you can make it work how you want to work. If you're not aware or you just simply don't care, then it's going to work however it wants to work. Okay, so that's why you have to be aligned with it. That way you could, because a Jupiter conjunct Pluto, Jupiter is about expansion. Okay, it's about luck. I mean, everybody loves Jupiter, right? Because it's lucky. It rules God as well. It's all the blessings and the fortunate, but it also is the revealer. So it will expose, and it could be a little bit nosy. Okay, it could be like the Inquirer. So it could really be nosy when it comes to your life, and that's where scandals happen. Okay, revelations happen with Jupiter, and it could be like, aha, I uncovered this. Did you know? It's the very did you know? Okay, and Pluto, it's powerful. Pluto rules wealth, but it also rules transformation, and it also rules pain, and it also rules loss. Okay, it can be very deep. A lot of people are very afraid of Pluto. It's a very scary planet for a lot of people that have not done the work, like their dark shadow. I already did my dark shadow, so I'm not afraid of Pluto. I'm like, bring it. I've been through so much that I'm like, nothing really scares me. I'm like, oh yeah, that too. Okay, I'm just used to it, but I'm not getting that anymore though. Because God told me these are your rewards now. Now is your rewards coming in for all the work that you did. But when you have a Jupiter conjunct Pluto, that rules billionaires. Okay. And so even though I'm not a billionaire, I may be billionaire in frequency, but I'm not an actual billionaire like on Forbes, or I'm not a Bill Gates. And, but when you do have a Jupiter conjunct Pluto, there opportunities can come for resources. You can become famous. You can even become a billionaire. You can, it depends what sign you have it. I have it in Aquarius. So for me, it would be like invention, inventing something, right? Transforming a product, or just doing something. I'm hearing real estate. I'm hearing I'm hearing real estate agents. I don't know why. They're probably looking at me. I'm hearing something about real estate. Well, I did invent. Okay. I said I wanted to get into real estate, and I did. But I did work real estate many, many years ago in my early life. Um, and I was a gopher, so I was like a lead magnet, and I was really good at real estate. And that has to do because I have Capricorn. And Capricorn and Taurus, it rules both real estate. But in my website, I have real estate, the quantum leap for real estate, right? So I created my own. In other words, I stepped in. I didn't force myself or bully myself, but I created a real estate service. Okay, um, and it's not cheap. Okay, it's not, because it requires a lot of information, but I can discern and I can analyze a house, right? And I don't think a lot of real estate agents are doing this at all. And so it's about analyzing the house through the numerology. And it's not just the house number, though, it's the street, it's everything. And also overlapping it with the astrology, okay? With a relocation chart. And that's another type of chart. And you look at the astrology and you look at the numerology and you blend it together. And you can see the frequency of, would that house be good for that person, for who you're trying to sell it to. And just to be in alignment, because a lot of people buy houses and then it turns out there's ghosts in the house. I know it happened to me, okay? And there's things you can do with the house with feng shui, where you can minimize the energy. Okay, sometimes we buy a house and that's it. We have to have it for 30 years, unless we sell it. But if we love it too much, and it's like, well, what can we do to minimize the energy if it's not the best energy, right? So that's where I come in, where I analyze the houses and look at it. A lot of people just want to buy, and they don't even know what they're buying, right? They're buying frequency. And so that's what I read. I read frequency. And it's very detailed, and that's why it costs what it costs, right? But it's so worth it if you're going to buy a house and you want to know what type of energy. You don't want to enter a house that already has ghosts in there, or that somebody died in the backyard, or a dog is buried in the backyard, or something. It could be anything, right? And so yeah. And where the house is built and all of that, I found out that where we used to live, it was a beautiful house, a 4-bedroom home. It had an attic. Um, and another recommendation, if you live in a house that has an attic, most likely there's ghosts. Um, but if, when we moved there, it was so beautiful and everything, and then later it turned out to be ghosts, okay? And so that has more, that'll be in another podcast, but I know why the ghost showed up. So, but also that whole block where we live, the realtors did not tell us that there's dead people that walk around in that block. Okay, so that whole block is haunted. Okay, and a lot of it is because it's very close to a pet cemetery that is like a couple blocks away, and where there were soldiers also that are buried there. Okay, and so they walk around the community there where we used to live, even though it was a beautiful house, but we had to downgrade. But it was a beautiful house, chandelier and all of that. But it was all the shiny whistles and everything, but it turned out to be haunted later on, right? And so, and I heard something, I think it was the house was made underneath a cemetery or something, or there's some kind of burial that was done underneath, because the house is built in 1927. So I haven't even did research into that, but I think if I do research into it, I'll be like, aha, that's why, But I hadn't even entertained the fact to do that. I should, but we don't live there no more. But and something scary happened to me there as well, spiritually, that had to do with soldiers and stuff. But anyway, that's another story. That's like a haunted. It is a haunted house, but and people live there now. Like other people moved in there. So I just kind of I'm wondering if they hear noises because we were hearing noises, okay? We could hear footsteps like in there's a lot of homes here in San Pedro, historical areas where there's a lot of stories like that. I'm not the only one, but anyway, and so I guess that's what I'm inventing, the whole real estate thing and how to discern and how to make the best purchase and so forth. Um, but anyway, going back to the astrology before I end it here, um, just know that the moon's in Scorpio, and maybe that's why I'm talking about this, because when the moon's in Scorpio, we all talk haunted houses, we all talk scary stories, and it is making a challenge with Pluto. Okay, something that's hidden. Maybe people never heard of this, me talking about it, and maybe ta-da, well, now I did. uh, and it could create some kind of challenge or something. But for me, it's just storytelling. That's what I'm doing, storytelling. So it is squaring Pluto. It is trining, so it's in harmony with the North Node, okay, in Pisces. So that's a good thing with Formahalt, the star of prophecy. So we are in prophetic times right now. Um, it is opposing, okay, the moon in Scorpio. It is opposing Mars in Taurus, okay. So that's another biggie, okay. When it opposes in this, I believe it's in the second, yeah, it's in the second house of money. Um, and of substance. So anything that has to do with your money, with banks, at 7 degrees of relationships there. Okay. So it is opposing anything also with real estate. Um, it's just time, just let things go and just not a time to be fighting and I do not recommend like no fighting and no it can get really bad with that square to Pluto and then opposing Mars here. You need to understand that Mars and Pluto, they're called malefics for a reason. And they can become evil planets, okay? War planets. I'm not going to say evil, I'm going to say war, okay? They rule war. And also Uranus rules war as well, okay? Um, and so that's what's happening there. It's opposing Mars and Taurus. It has to do with real estate. Um, the moon is trining Mexico, so that's a good thing for Mexicans, good thing for Mexico, the FIFA and so forth. It's getting along very well. The Mexican asteroid just entered Cancer, the sign of families, at 9 degrees of countries. So it's getting along very well with the moon in Scorpio. So that's a good thing for the FIFA. Um, and I think that's about it for now, but that's already a lot there. The frequencies are very high right now. Moon square Pluto, that's a strong one. Moon opposing Mars, that's a strong one. Okay. And then not only that, but Mars and Pluto also are squaring each other. So, too many squares going on right now, guys. A lot of squares going on right now. So, just, stay low. Don't say anything unnecessary that you should not be saying. Um, know how to take action, have a strategy and so forth. Because a lot of things can happen, disrupt, and end automatically really fast. And next 48 hours, just, there could be jealousy tendencies. There could be too much intensity, obsession. So, yeah, it's going to get very dramatic, very telemundo. It can get very telemundo. So just relax yourself, calm down and just lay low if you have to. So anyway, this is Laura Francesca with the podcast. Again, if you want to visit the website, you can at www.starzenith33.com. And if you did like the episode, do share, do subscribe so I can continue talking more on the Podbean here at the podcast. And also in Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Okay, so we're doing uploads in YouTube as well. And I hope you guys have a great night. Good night.